change, rearrange, and life seems strange, but you gotta keep your aim, stay focused on the game, don't quit. Quitters never win, winning all begins when you begin to believe in yourself again. Yeah, ready, fire, aim, gotta get that. Negativity in my life, gotta get back. Positivity tastes sweet like a Kit Kat. Unity in the community is how we get that change. Rearrange your thoughts and your patterns, man. You can change anytime, you just need a plan. If you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. If you make a plan, then your boat will sail. All across the seas of life, I need the light to keep leading me tonight. I need it right, what I believe I write. I leave a light, planting the seeds of life, yeah.
And we are live again with another episode of Eduardo Live and Empowering Monday. And today my guest is actually all the way from Sri Lanka, Thayalan Anton, actually, a transformation therapist, a hi-fi consultancy, and training private limited. Welcome, Thayalan.
Thank you, Eduardo. An absolute pleasure to be here today.
The same. Could you please tell us a little something about Sri Lanka that most people don't know, some curiosity, some interesting fact?
What can I say? I'm going to sound very biased. It is a beautiful island, surrounded by beautiful beaches. We've got the upcountry for those who love mountains, who love trekking, a bit of adventure. We've got the cultural side of things. So if you're into that kind of interest, but it is overall a country that you must visit. It has been voted one of the best or top tourist destinations in the world. A country that I think would recommend to a lot of people to come in and spend some time. And I don't think a couple of days or a week is ever going to be enough, honestly.
I have to travel. My encounter with people from Sri Lanka usually it's been in my life because I grew up as I came to Sweden when I was 5 with my parents, and in Scandinavia I met people from Sri Lanka and they have this entrepreneur spirit that I really like. Like most of them are very entrepreneurial. I like that, That, like, is it something common like for Sri Lankan people to be like entrepreneurish?
Well, I guess we do have that inbuilt in some instances, and in fact, COVID was one of the best examples where we saw so many people become entrepreneurs, side hustle in some instances, some actually venturing into it full time. Even what can I say? Even a little vegetable stall or a vegetable vendor in the corner of the road suddenly became very innovative and he took his business into a little vehicle, tuk-tuks as we call them, those 3-wheel taxis, and went from door to door selling his products. So I guess it is there within. It's there within. And at the right opportunities, people do like to come out and give it a go.
Yeah, I really like the people that I have get to know during my life, actually, from Sri Lanka. They also have a lot of humor, right? And that is something with us Chilean, like we have the humor, like we can laugh at our own misery, right?
Absolutely. That's the best way to do it.
Yeah, and I think you need to have that in life, because life is hard. Like life is not easy, Even when you're born, like with everything. I have friends, they were like born like super rich, right? And despite of that, they can't avoid life. Like life will hit you hard. You will get blows, and I think like it's important to have like a positive spirit and be able to laugh. Like. It's just how it is, and we move forward because it's much easier to move forward when you're like a positive-minded person, I believe. Is it Sri Lankan like positive in general, like in attitude? Like, is it part of the culture, this positive thinking, or?
It is to a great extent, Eduardo, because I can tell you this: after coming out of a 30-year civil war, the country bounced back full on. It has never, swayed us. It never kind of distracted us from going ahead and doing what we do. Even with COVID, even with all of these issues, we keep bouncing back. And I guess that is in our DNAs now. So yeah, we kind of like doing that. We kind of like bouncing back and picking up something and going after it, and then making sure that we accomplish whatever we set out to do. And you'll see that across the different industries that we have within the country itself. So it is a good sign. It's a good thing.
I have a next year I'm coming out with 2 books. I'm becoming and that's a childhood dream come true to become an author, because books was like my savior from bullies and hateful environments. Actually, I could escape into my books and travel the world actually. And I made a list of countries that I will go to after my release to meet people, to talk, to lecture. And actually, Sri Lanka is on that list. Actually, I have a list of the countries because it's I really want to visit.
You must let us know and let us organize it for you here.
That would be amazing.
The only worry I have is whether you would go back.
Yeah, I would just stay. I think my wife will come there. She would talk to you, and I will come back. So that will not happen.
It would be an absolute pleasure.
I hope she doesn't watch this episode. Okay, my friend, your passion for leadership, you have so much knowledge. Where did it start? What was it, like a childhood, something in childhood or in your teens? What propelled you to where you are today, sitting here and sharing your knowledge with the audience, and your big passion for leadership? How did it, tell us your journey, tell us your life journey.
Life journey. I don't know whether we have enough time to go through, but for me, Eduardo, it's been a couple of paradigm shifts in life. I started at a very young age. So I was born here in Sri Lanka, but at a very young age, was taken away to Dubai. My parents were there for a very long time. And so I kind of did my studies, grew up, I did my work, etc. in Dubai. And then from there, I traveled around and worked in a number of countries. But the number of instances in my life that kept changing, or as I call it, paradigm shifts. So just at grade 8, my parents just couldn't afford to continue paying for my education, so I had to stay back. That's a very strong memory that stays with me today. That enabled me, or that prompted me to go in and start working at a very young age. I had to borrow money to do my O levels or my grade 10 exam, that was the basic. But I then worked to make sure that I pay that money back. But from there, I was not happy with just the work. So I was believe it or not, a clerk in a 5-star hotel, filing away documents. That was my first job. But I was not happy with just sitting on a table and desk and doing that. So we had a uniform, which is black trousers and white shirts. I was easy because the room service wore the same white shirts and black trousers. The housekeeping wore white shirts and black trousers. So, I was curious to see what these guys were doing. So I would quickly finish my filing, run along and watch the room service guys do their work, watch the housekeeping do their work, try and carry the trays and clean the bed and learn that. And I kind of built an interest to learn about how the hotel operated, how the industry worked. And that made me try other departments. And I think that probably was the first step or first exposure to trying to understand the business completely. Because then you become versatile enough to be able to do different jobs and be able to help that company. I then came back many years later, I should say, came back to Sri Lanka because of wanting to bring my parents back. So that was my second paradigm shift. Gave up the luxuries of what I had in Dubai and moved in here, starting from scratch. Didn't have friends, didn't have many that I could reach out to. So struggled. I was fortunate to join HSBC. So did that. And as I slowly built up my career, I was thrown into the training world, and I kind of realized, wow, this is interesting because I'm now able to sort of give back whatever I learned. And I could see the satisfaction in doing that. I saw people were able to change the ways they were doing things. I was happy actually giving back whatever I've learned, the struggles, and I could relate to people with different stories. And I think that added to that whole, the whole system of wanting to, or the belief that, you must give back. So I did that. So when I joined HSBC as a trainer, I was brought in as a linguistics trainer, and I didn't know what the hell that meant, truth be told, at that point in time. But I had a good boss who explained, you could speak English, it's English, go and observe the training program, get yourself accredited, come back and deliver it. So I said, okay. Somebody had faith in me to do it. I delivered. And from there it picked up. But then again, I've never done the same job twice, never done the same industry twice. I was always wanting to learn and do different things. So when I came into HSBC, I was able to put that into practice. So I started out with the linguistics department, moved into different departments, over the 10-year career that I had with them. So I moved laterally and then get promoted, again moved laterally, and never ran behind promotions. But it was interesting the amount you could learn and thereby able to add more value to the people that you work with and also to the organization as a whole. So that, I guess, was the foundation that became, or that got augmented to a point where I thought, this is great. I did have another paradigm shift later when I got my parents down, and 6 months after bringing my parents, my mom passed away. So I had to let go of a career to stay back and watch, keep an eye on my dad and support him. So I ventured into the consulting arena. And that's where I kind of understood whatever I've covered over the last so many years in the different industries, the different roles, I could now go into any one of these companies and give that back and support the organization as a whole. So that piece worked. So I focused on consulting for quite some time and then traveled a little bit here and there to make sure that I take on various assignments and got more exposure. And then I guess when I did come back, I lost my dad about 1.5 years later. So I left Sri Lanka, did my whole round. And then I guess the final piece or the final paradigm shift is coming back here in Sri Lanka with the family now, and combine both the consulting and the training piece together under one umbrella. And yeah, I haven't been happier.
Man, your story is so inspirational. You should also write a book, my friend.
Interesting you say that, Eduardo. We do write. So the founder of our business, Vidusha, and I have been sitting and writing books. So we now have, I think by the end of December 31st, we should see about 50 books on our website, everything to do with management and leadership. Also collaborated with a lot of people internationally, including some of the guests who've been on our talk shows and our webinars, some of our trainers. In fact, I will rope you in. I've put a note on that. And so we've done about 50 books. We enjoy writing. I think thanks to COVID, we had the time to sit back and put some of our experiences, the thoughts, the lessons we've learned into books. And we've said, you know what? I think in my belief, I always wanted to give back to the people that have helped me, to the society. Vidusha had his father tell him, all that you've learned, you must give something back as well. So there is that belief as well. So combined, we thought we give all the books absolutely free, and let people, gather as much knowledge as they can, and then hopefully that will benefit someone.
I have to reflect on what you have said. I want to go back to the thing like with the first job that you have, right? As a young man, as a teen, actually, as a child, I started. My parents, they had to start from the beginning, coming to a new country, and my parents were academical, so they had to study again, from scratch here in university in Sweden. So our economy was not so good. So, and I met my first computer when I was 12, a Commodore 64, and I fell in love in that computer. And then I had how can I buy that computer? Because my parents don't have enough money, right? So I had to work, and I did from there I started to work actually, besides to buy myself my computers, my console, gaming console, all this nerdy stuff that I loved, and because the library, the books were free, right? I just went there and read, And yeah, I did everything, you know, like washing dishes at a Chinese restaurant. It's like I did everything you can imagine. And what I did is that for each journey, I learned something, like you say, right? It's like, and that is life. Like you can't expect waiting for, like, I need this, like the job has to have all these things before I start to work. Like teens should start to work early, I think, like, and to learn, like, to communicate, to sell, to fulfill goals. It's so important, I think, that you start like early with this. So I hope my children do that, like work extra, do all that stuff, right? I don't want to spoil them. I will try to avoid that, you know. Even if I love to spoil my son, like I try to think to, like, he must feel that he must struggle for life, because life is a struggle. And that is the thing with COVID that I'm trying to tell companies, is that because I have so many like obstacles in my life. I had, like you, I lost my mother, but at a very young age. So for me, that was like devastating. Like we come from a culture where like parents, like they maybe even live with us, you know, to all their life. That's like natural for us, you know. And the thing is that what I learned is that I became very calm in the eye of the storm, you know. I don't panic anymore. And this is what I try to tell company, like COVID can be a blessing, you know, if you stop worrying and you start to look for opportunities. And the best opportunity you can get in life is to give back, actually. And that is one of my bonus. It's called give without expectation of return. I believe that so much, and I live that. I try to have no expectations when I give. A lot of people contact me on LinkedIn. It could be anything from a big leader that is suffering, like maybe with anxiety or close to burnout, because I did a burnout and I came back. So I advise people, you know, but I don't expect nothing back, you know, I just give. And what I love about that is when I get something back, it feels so good. It feels so good, you know. I appreciate it much more than when I am expecting something, because usually you don't get what you expect. It's like with your children, right? You expect them to all these expectations, like, and usually they are like running their own way anyways, right?
True.
So I have a question for you, and actually I have more questions about leadership, because it's a topic that I have so big passion for, and usually that's what I do. Like you could say like 50% of my time is leadership, to build people. I love that thing. I love to see people grow. And my second part is like the nerd, right? To architect, to research, to like find solutions. And my first question is that what defines a great leader?
Honestly, Eduardo, I think there are lots of textbook answers to defining a great leader, truth be told. From my personal experience and what I've seen, I think some of the things that really stands out is a leader must be a good follower as well. And what I mean by that is a leader should be able to learn from those around him, especially those whom he is responsible for. Because at the end of the day, you need to accept you don't have all the answers. You will possibly never have all the answers. But if you're willing to learn and listen to and learn from those around you and their ideas and bring that together into a collective leadership form, I think then that sets you up as a definite leader. And you cannot, you shouldn't be someone who is intimidated or scared of having somebody in your team or even hiring somebody in your team who's better than you. In fact, I always look for somebody who's better than me, because that way I know my job would get done better and I get to learn more. Any which way you look at the n number of quotes that you see and the various people saying various things, it boils down to this particular point. If you are not willing to learn, if you're not willing to work together, then you can't have, but you must have a great vision, I suppose, and it works. Because if you have a good vision, then you know where you want to get to. And in order to get there, you can't do it by yourself. And if you have a team, then the best way forward is to make sure that you get everybody together on that journey. So you must be a good follower. if you want to be a good leader.
I loved your definition of leadership, and I agree so much in what you're saying. And like my own experience is that for me it has been very hard to I read some books that I really liked, and but usually it's like leadership. You either have it in you, you have some advantages, or you need to learn it, like with a lot of grinding, right? But most of all, you must have interest in people. I have seen leaders and don't like people, and for me, they're it's very hard for them to be leaders. And usually, they're still very committed, as I am, to do things and succeed in life. So maybe they become a boss, And I have worked with bosses many times, and we clash because we don't fit together. I'm not a boss. I have this kind of pride in finding amazing people. I love that. I want to work with the best people. I don't want to be the best. I want to be the best leader. I don't want to be the best programmer or the best designer or the best researcher. But I do want to be not the best, but I want to be as a good leader as I can be by being there for them, by listening. And what I'm struggling with is that how can we learn that from school, because what I have issues with MBA, it stands for management business administration. And for me, that's so outdated, It should be leadership, innovation, and mindset. I would say that would be the third, to learn psychology, to learn all this stuff that has nothing to do with numbers, because leadership is not about numbers, it's about people. What is your take on that?
Well, it is, right? Leadership is about people. It is about individuals working together, and it's about, if you are in, and if you're in a team, or if you are even working with your peers, if you really want to set it right, you must be okay with being able to help somebody succeed, for example, in a particular assignment or in a particular task. And you must be okay with you doing the work, but that individual who started it, taking the credit for it. And you shouldn't be, shouldn't get into that whole jealous mode. You shouldn't get into that, I did all the hard work, why is he getting all the credit mode? Because if you are going to go down that road, then you're not really being a proper team player in that sense. This is just my opinion, right? And again, you're saying school, how can schools help it? And I think a lot of our deficit or gaps that you find in today's working environment is because schools have not taught those skill sets. Yeah, they teach academic, great, but the skills that are required for someone to get into the corporate world are very different. And I don't see many schools or colleges or universities or higher educational units teaching those skill sets. So there is a gap. And I guess that's where the training organizations kind of come in, or where the organizations come in and help individuals bridge that gap. We work with a number of, we work with schools here, we work with the university, and we are currently providing what is called a bridging program, which is a series of workshops that enables these individuals who've learned the academic skill sets, great, competencies rather, and then now they need to learn the competencies that are required to get into the corporate world. Because remember, school kids or university kids getting into a corporate environment are also in a culture shock when they get into a corporate world, because they have no reference. First time they get into an office, you see first time everybody's wearing formal clothes, and there's a desk for you, there is a break time, you can't just get up and go whenever you want, you can't just decide to stay at home whenever you want. The environment changes, and you realize they're in a culture shock. Now, how do you bridge that gap? So you do need to train people, you do need to educate them on that. But some of the skill sets, and as I said earlier, even at schools, simple things like 2 or 3 kids working together on a project, and the lead kid getting the credit, and the others being okay with it. It's a great skill set, if you must ask. Can you do that today? If I help you in your department, if I come up to your department and help you out, and if the entire company is praising you, Am I okay with that? Or am I looking for some, a pat on the back as well? Makes a huge difference.
You're preaching my gospel, so I'm just sitting and
I'm glad to
enjoying
hear that.
actually. I could not agree more actually. That is so amazing. And I was actually going to we were planning on starting a leader program here in Norway before this COVID thing hit us. I think I will share it with you here. 1 second. Yeah, like passion led us here. That I love that quote. And Harvard, they have kind of this like partnership programs that you can be part of, that you can give they can go some of the courses that they have like on their online kind of platform. And what I was going to teach was actually very like I can teach you everything you need to know about the digital world, about technology in 1 hour actually as a leader that you need to know. But the whole program would be about people actually. This is the like passion that I have when it comes to like company culture and well-being. For me, they go hand in hand. And what I have missed since I switched over from you could say I went over from being entrepreneur and entering like big corporate to try out my wings. How would an entrepreneur work there? People defined me as an entrepreneur. And the biggest difference was that when I was the leader of, as most, we had like 35 people in the company. And the thing is that I defined together with my partners what the company should be and what we stand for, But when I entered big corporate, at the beginning, it was like a shock for me because I asked them like, how do you work with values? They like, hey, Eduardo, here is a brochure. There you have our values. I said, no, that was not the question. My question is, how do you work with values? So they didn't get that. Then I asked them like all these questions, right? For me, that was very natural, And my biggest question was that, how do you work with leadership growth and leadership culture? And that is something that I noticed when I was like a consultant in big corporates, that they didn't have a leadership strategy more than they have this kind of program called like leadership program. And I like, what is that leadership program? Said, yeah, like you can go to a course if you want. Like I said, but how do I know when I enter as a leader in this company how to act? Somebody told me like, but Eduardo, like we hire very experienced leaders, so of course they know how to act. And I was like so amazed. I was like, how can you know that? How can you know that? They said like, no, but we follow reference. And I was like, but so you're telling me that you're taking in all these leaders from different companies that you say are very skilled, and you just drop them loose on people, right? They like, yeah. So I said, what happens if one of these leaders, they come from a toxic environment where they're used to micromanage, they are used to mistreat people, and they do it here? What do you do then? That's a good question, Eduardo. And I was like, yeah, that is a good question. Had it happened before here? And they didn't answer, because I know they know the answer, I know the answer. And that is why my belief is that if you don't have a leadership like kind of culture or onboarding program to teach them values, how do we and this was an incident I've seen many times, is that how do we give feedback or criticisms to people? I've seen some leaders take somebody on stage, you could say, like in front of everybody, and just hammer them down. And for me, it was like, why do they do that? Like, how do they even think that is a good thing to do? And this person that it happened to was one of the best like experts I worked with in my life. What happened? He quit. Because people like us that are like very good, we don't like to be mistreated. Like I will just go. I have many options to go and work like almost where I want, And everybody that has a big expertise has. So what I'm trying to say is that if you don't, my experience is that big corporates are lacking in this area. And I think companies like your company could actually help them in this thing, how to do that,
So, I mean, you're right, Eduardo. I think a lot of organizations don't have their strategy in place, right? But in terms of values, and I think it starts with the leadership understanding the purpose of the organization. What is the purpose of your company? What is that with regards to the product or to the service? There is a purpose. And in order to deliver on that, what are the values or what are the kind of behaviors you need in order to support that kind of delivery, to the end result? That will kind of arrive at the kind of principles that people need to project, demonstrate. And the principles will lead to values. And organizations must understand what are the values that they require, or what are the kind of behaviors that they require in order to ensure that everybody in there is working towards one common goal or one common purpose. And that you must enforce, augment, keep training, reskilling, and resupporting that, so that you build the culture and you drive towards the culture. When you do that, you'll realize that the results will automatically come out, because it becomes part of your DNA. And that is why the focus should be on creating the right culture, not try to replace one with the other. When you don't understand what you need as a value, when you don't understand what is your competency requirement, when you don't see those, then you're just doing quick fixes. And quick fixes, as always, are just temporary. They're never sustainable. They're never long-term. But if you fix the culture, if you build on that and develop the skill sets, and you continue to develop the skill sets, and you give complementary skill sets, and you build on that, not only to have people learn to accept and demonstrate the values that are required, people also learn the skill sets, and together you end up delivering what the organization wants, and that was the original purpose. But the challenge is, when people don't understand what their purpose is and what their strategy is, then how can you expect the leadership to drive the culture?
You need to promise me to write your book, man. I like so much what you're saying. It's so like, the thing is that, like, I think, like, we're not the only ones that have come to all these conclusions, right? It's like, and that is what I want from, like, I would like to have, like, a faster tempo in change, because what I write a lot about in my book, the digital culture, and that is how do you build beyond good to great. Like Jim Collins, his book is like, it was, I even almost slept with that book. Actually, I had it on, I fell asleep reading that book over and over again, because it's such an amazing statement that Jim Collins did. It's so many things in that book that is still relevant today. And what I write about is that in the reason it's called the digital culture is that what I'm saying is that the digital nature, like the technology itself today, it goes so fast, it changes society so fast, that you need to have a adaptable mindset. You need to have flexibility in your company for everybody to change. And that is what happened in COVID, that when COVID hit and everybody went home, the companies that were fastest to adapt, and when I say a company, I say the people in a company that were the fastest to adapt to the situation and switch gear, they were the one that came on top, actually. The other one that were just looking and were not used to change, they usually panicked, started to have like anxiety and all these kind of things, right? So, and that what happens then is that you mentally block, and if the leader blocks, the whole company blocks. Like the leader can never block, right? And that is what I write a lot about my book, is the thing, like, how do you implement a culture where everybody must be able to shift gear, and that is what I have struggled with, is that careers and this kind of role hierarchy model, they usually think of that okay, it's about a person, like, for example, Eduardo, now he's that and he will be that. And that is what Jim Collins is not saying. He's saying you need to have the right people in the bus all the time. It means if we shift gear, you need to reallocate people. Maybe I'm not the appropriate leader for the next journey. Maybe I should be leader for something else on the next journey, because that is what we need, and that is the thing. I have no ego at all. I can do anything. I don't even need a title. Just hire me as Eduardo, because I'm just there to help this company become amazing. And usually that is the fun thing. Like people, like when I enter somewhere, they say like, hi, what is your role? And I hate when they say that, because my only role is to make this company amazing together with you. There is like, you can call me whatever you want, like pick a role if you want, like call me what you want. Call me the cleaner, the engineer, architect, call me what you want. It doesn't matter. What matters is like what you just said is so important. Everybody so that listen now to what Anton said, after this show, rewind, listen to him again. It's about purpose. Like we are here for only one purpose, and that is to make an amazing company that creates jobs, that support people, families, and create a future generation. That is how I see it.
You're absolutely right, Eduardo, because they always say that change is the only constant in life, right? And it is so true, because if you are not ready to adapt, if you're not willing to change gears, as you rightly brought out, then the chances are that you're going to be behind. So, and I mean, this is another subject to talk about, adaptability. But as we always say, learning is a continuous process. You never stop learning, right? But as much as you need to keep learning, you also need to understand you need to keep adapting. But if you're not adapting, then you're going to get stagnant, because change will always be, the change is inevitable, whether you like it or not. And again, these are skill sets. The differentiation between good companies, average companies, and great companies are those who've adapted with the change. And I'm not talking about just the senior leader. I'm not talking about just the CEO. I'm talking about the entire organization, right from the leadership right up to the the last the person in the organization, in the structure. They all change. May take a little time here and there, but that willingness to change and adapt puts the company in the next gear to drive forward. So you need to be able to do that. And quite often, everybody gets comfortable in their comfort zones that nobody wants to change. And then they say, we'll do it later. And that later never comes.
In Spanish, we say mañana. Mañana, they say. Tomorrow. It's so true what you just said, and I loved your quote there, like change is unavoidable, right? And Bruce Lee have this amazing quote. He said, be water. And that is, I actually a whole chapter in my book about a concept that I worked with, because everybody's talking like lean, agile, and then you have like all these methodologies under that comes in operation, like Scrum and stuff like that. And I have my own method called Be Water, actually, from Bruce Lee. It's like be water, like adapt, float above the stone. Don't look at it.
We have a saying within the company, something that our founder established when COVID hit, and we ran a series of webinars. It's very straightforward. It says lead, follow, or get out of the way.
And with that one,
if you don't understand, if you don't realize that, either you need to lead and do it right, or follow, which also works, because then you let somebody else who's better than you, show the directions, get the work done, or just get out of the way and let somebody else do it.
And that is the thing with what Jim Collins said. He said, like, get the wrong people off the bus, get the right people inside the bus, and get the right people in the right seat of the bus. That should be done for each stop. That is what I'm saying. And each stop means something of more higher importance, right? Like now
Sure.
we're digitalizing, so we hired all these new people, and now we actually are in a paradigm shift inside the company, you could say, even if maybe it's not the biggest paradigm shift, but it's important enough that we should look at all the people, like, are they sitting in the right seat, and are they having the, call it roles or whatever you want to have, like from in the future. I will tell companies, don't give me no role, like hire me as Eduardo, or just human, or let's say co-worker, co-soldier, or like camaraderie, or whatever you want, but don't limit me with these kind of things, because usually I think this goes for all of us that are like passionate and quite high skilled people, is that usually we contribute in many areas. I'm not only contributing in technology. I'm like, I'm in the innovation board, deciding with other people about the investments we should do, like what project should fly. I'm in the design system team, also helping out with design system. I was in the employer branding group. So usually, that is my theory, that people should float around where they're best adapted to do each task, It could be any kind of task that needs to be done. You need to have the appropriate people. So people, like, to just have one thing, I think in the future will be very hard, because the changes will just be faster and faster. That is what I believe.
And I think it also works well, Eduardo, if even at the recruitment point, you kept saying getting people on the right, getting the right people on the bus in the right seat. It also goes back to recruitment, right? You should be able to hire the right people. And we always say, look, hire for attitude, because skills can be trained. But you need to make sure that you have the right attitude. And quite often that is missed when people do interviews. So if you get the right caliber of individuals who will fit into your culture, and also you need to look at what complementary skills that they have, because that would enable them to play different roles within the organization for different projects, for different business requirements, which then would help the organization drive forward. Which is, the whole metaphor that they use in terms of people in the right seat. And today you could be sitting on the left side, and for another project you could be sitting on the right side. But that tells you that you're able to sit on two different seats in the bus and still be able to contribute or add value.
Like I said, you're speaking my gospel, so it's very hard to debate you on anything. I'm just agreeing. I'm just like giving you also my experiences from what you're saying, because we're so aligned in so many things. And this is a true fact. I think, like, during my career, like 20 years in the IT industry, I think I hired around like 100 people, directly or indirectly. Indirectly means I just said what I thought about this person. Directly means I did everything. Like I even give the text for the ad that I wanted. Like I want an engineer that has all these things. No, this is that. So, and I never looked at what school they went to or at their grades. This is not about like I really. That you struggle to enter the best school, I respect that, but I don't analyze that. I look, okay, I'm happy that you did that journey, and for sure I will have that in account, but the only thing that will matter in my brain is actually your attitude. Like, do you really want to be here? Do you have a passion for the thing that you're going to do? Else you can't work with me, because I have passion. I want to have the best product. I want to have amazing journeys together that we can tell at the fire camp. That is my life in a nutshell. I want battle scars that when we sit there we're like old and we sit and remember all these great memories. That is what I live for. And even if we fail, it doesn't matter, because we failed with pride. We tried our best. Luck was against us. It doesn't matter. So I only look actually at attitude and who you are as a human, like who are you, like as a human being, and why do you want to be with me? Like, why do you want to work with me or us, like the company? That is what I look at, And I'm not saying like, oh, it's not important that you struggle and you go to a right school. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about, even if you go to the best school and you have the right grades, if you have the wrong attitude to life, when it comes to working with other people, it will be very tough for you, because I'm not the only one that thinks like this when it comes to recruiting, I can tell you.
No, you're right. And even when it comes to, I don't think it's failures, because you say you only fail if you stop trying. So every time something doesn't work, you try and find a different way to work or a better approach to go after. So you're not really failing, so to speak. You're just trying different ways.
Experience.
It's all an experience. Every single roadblock along the way is an experience. And that's, for me personally, every bit of that journey that I've had has taught me something or the other. So today, if you ask me, would I want to change any of that? I really wouldn't, because all of those experiences has made me who I am today. And for me to stand and talk to people, to guide them, to mentor them, to advise them, and to tell them how to look at life and work, is because I have gone through it, personally, and experienced it. I have realized the mistakes I've made, and I've made plenty of mistakes in my life. Wrong choices and so on and so forth. But it's all, it all collectively brings you towards the success that you're in today, or that I'm in today. So I wouldn't change anything. I really wouldn't change anything. And I think it's not about, failing. It's about, don't give up. Keep trying. And again, bringing it back to what you rightly said, passion. I truly love what I do. I enjoy what I do. I don't, I wake up in the morning wanting to do what I do. That's passion. And I always tell people, if you don't put your heart into it, don't do it. Don't do anything for the sake of doing it. Either you love what you do or don't do it. Find something else to love. So when, there are people who say, you must love what you do and all of that. Agreed. But if it makes sense, then yes. But if you're going to do something for the sake of it, don't. Unless and until you have to do something to get on with it. But otherwise, I'm in a nice place. I'm in one of those, settings where I enjoy the training bit. I enjoy the facilitating bit. I enjoy giving back to individuals. I enjoy helping others become better than who they were. So for me, that is a nice place to be at.
I build my success out of passion, actually. So I'm very proud about my, and I preach that a lot, like what you just said. But my wife, she hates that, because then I don't do what she asks me of that I find boring, right? she has to like go around and chase me, right? Like, hey, you said that you would build those furniture that you ordered, like now you do it. Because she knows that they will be in the hallway for a year if she don't like chase me, right? Because that's what that is what I learned. I learned that in my skill set, and I have a lot of disabilities. Like I was actually born with dysgraphia, that's a spelling disability, so I use Grammarly and all these tools, to not make typos, and now I'm becoming an author, and that is so funny, but that is the thing, like people don't talk about that. I try to talk about this, that life is not easy, like and also we are just humans, like we're not Superman. I haven't met, and I know a lot of like successful people, and I haven't met like a Superman and a Superwoman. I only met humans, actually, only humans. That is the only thing I have met on this earth since I was born. So I don't believe in those kind of concept about like Superman, Superwoman. I just believe in human, and I take pride in my humanity. You could say that I have strong side, and I have many not so strong side. But what I do is that I try to make the best of the few strong side that I have. And that's how I have been successful, actually.
Of course. And as I said, I was thinking of Vidusha. Now, Vidusha, when you do speak to him, you realize, and he'll tell you, everything we do, we may not have passion around it. But like you said, the furniture, I may not enjoy setting that furniture up. But if you have to do it, you have to do it. Get on with it. Learn that, move on. But when it comes to passion, I suppose it's that, and you've got to get around to enjoying what you do. And eventually, the ultimate piece is you happy with what you're doing. And on the long run, if I've put all the pieces together, which I have to a great extent, then enjoy what you're doing now. It helps. It helps. If you can be passionate about what you do, it definitely helps.
Yeah, it's we have like we need to do a part 2, because I think that we only reach, like I could say, like we have so much more to talk about, to empower people and to like share the experience that we have. So I think we need to do part 2 actually. And I think like part 2 would focus on
this topic will never be done in an hour. This is
yeah.
especially when you believe in leadership, when you do believe in helping others. 1 hour is never enough, and yet there are companies who believe that you could do training for leadership in a day.
I think part 2 should be about more like in the operational. Like how do we actually do it? How I'm really curious. Like, how do your company work? Like, what obstacle have you faced? And when you found, like, for example, a company contact you and you realize that, oh my God, they need to do a lot of changes. Maybe they need to also like move around some leaders, right? Like, if we're going to be, and that is the challenge. So it's so interesting. I think we should go into like how do you work with the companies? And that will be for part 2, I think. Then we go into more theories and also practical tips. And I will also share some of my practical tips, like how I try to like change companies where I work at. And yeah, so that will be part 2. But I'm member of empowering network. I would say it's the most empowering network I've been part of. It's called One Golden Nugget. One of our members is actually Joe Foster, the founder of Rebook, where we share wisdom. That is what we do. We write nuggets. It means we write short, empowering messages to people that we share with the world. OneGoldenNugget.com. Everybody should check that out. And I think we need you on that network, Anton. I will send you more information, but you should join us. You should join us. We need you there. And when you write your book, I want a signed copy, man. I will buy it also, because I believe in supporting people that effort. So a lot of people have sent me like books and things, but usually I go in and also buy them actually, because I believe that if you really like somebody, you should support all the way, right? So I believe that. So to round up Eduardo Live today, give us one golden nugget with all your experience, like what a short advice to future generation, future leaders, like a quote. Give us a powerful quote, like to empower.
I would stick with lead, follow, or get out of the way. For me, that would summarize everything that I want to say to anyone at any position, in any organization, regardless of industry, regardless of the role, regardless of the positions, because it doesn't matter. You either lead, or you follow, or just simply get out of the way.
What is so powerful with your like golden nugget is that it wakes you up, right? It wakes you up. Like the last part will wake you up for sure, like a move of the way. Like, and what we're meaning when we say that expression, because I also use that maybe with another just word. I say like, or you need to shift department or something like that. That is the same, right? What I'm saying is that you need to understand that, like you said, progress will go on. It's not about Eduardo. It's about a collective that came together, formed a company, and we're actually paying people's existence, and families are dependent, right? So we can't be playing around. And if Eduardo is not appropriate here and is stopping the progress that should be done, then Eduardo must wake up and like, maybe I should, I don't know, follow this role thing and do another role, or maybe like shift to another company, but usually my experience is that there is always something to do in a company. There's always something to do. So you don't need to get stuck in your role or your title or whatever it is that is mentally blocking you, like to get out of the way, right?
Absolutely. You cannot tell me that there aren't opportunities. And I mean, from personal experience, and I've walked out of organizations if I felt I can't add any more value. So I get out of the way, and I let somebody else take on that role. But I've also been in organizations where I know I've done my bit, and then I go and ask, can I do that? Can I do this? Can I take on a bit of responsibilities? It may not happen immediately, but it will happen. But that's up to you. But that's a brilliant piece that I wish people would follow more often.
Yeah, I heard the people that like that don't do it. They usually say, like, when I tell them, like, hey, we should do this, and if you could help out with that, and then they say, like, Eduardo, that's not my role. Like, come on. And you know what I feel at that moment? I feel like, what am I doing here? Like, why am I wasting my time with this? Because you can't get back time. You can pay me a lot of money if you want, and in the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you pay, because you can't give back my time. Like, if I'm going to be somewhere and like you're abused, everybody's like, and nothing works where you want, in the direction that it should go, right? You can't take back that time. It's lost forever. So that is my advice. I would say, if I have to give one advice, like, be time conscious with your time.
Sure. Absolutely. Have to agree with you on that.
This was an amazing show. Any last words? Like, okay, how do people contact you? What is your preferred communication channel?
I'm on Anton at luminarylearningsolutions.com. I think you have my email address.
Yeah. You want me to put it on the description, or should I just put your LinkedIn link, maybe?
Oh yeah, can do. LinkedIn is a great way.
I will share it here. I will share. I like so much your picture, like when you're reading the book. I will share it.
That's a story for another day. So
we need to do that.
And so the book that I'm reading is.
One second, I will add it to the screen. 1 second. There we go. Yes, that's your profile. So anyone listening, search for Thayalan Anton, and you will be there. And your mail also. Should I add it on the description, or just the link? 1 second. Yes. So have an amazing week. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Amigo, wish you the same. Have a brilliant Christmas and a fantastic 2021. We'll see you on the other side of this year.
Could you give that one in Sri Lankan to the audience?
Oh my God, don't ask me to speak in Sinhalese or in Tamil. I'm terrible at it. do remember, I didn't study here. So for me, I learned the language when I came back. So it was a challenge on its own. And if anyone from here listens into it and they laugh their heads off, so I will stick with English safer.
I think that goes for most people that I met, like from Sri Lanka. I think in those, like, it's English, right? Even between themselves, they speak English. Actually, I noticed that, and I love to speak English, because for me that's like the international language that is the easiest to rapidly learn, and you can speak with everybody. Most people, but Chilean will tell you that they know English, but they don't. When you start to speak with them, you will realize that lives in Chile, actually. So not all of them. I will not be judgmental here, but usually, like my cousin, he says, like, yeah, like, do you speak English? He like, see, yes, and then I start to speak him in English, and he like, see, yes, and he doesn't get anything what I'm saying.
I think C is the safe word, right?
That's so cheap. Okay, Anton, I will not hold you anymore. This was an amazing episode. amazing episode. Thank you for coming on the show. So Eduardo Live is out for today. Boom, we dropped the microphone. Ciao, as we say in Spanish.
Ciao,
Make the
sir.
change, rearrange, and life seems strange, but you gotta keep your aim, stay focused on the game, don't quit. Quitters never win, winning all begins when you begin to believe in yourself again. Yeah, ready, fire, aim, gotta get that. Negativity in my life, gotta get that. Positivity tastes sweet like a Kit Kat. Unity enough communities, how we get that change. Rearrange your thoughts and your patterns, man. You can change anytime, you just need a plan. If you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. If you make a plan, then your boat will sail. All across the seas of life, I need the light to keep leading me tonight. I need it right, what I believe I write. I leave a light, planting the seeds of life, yeah. Make the change to win, yes you can. Make the change to win, make a plan. Make the change to win, you can. Make the change to win, change to win.